Okay, this video is going to go over the modeling of mechanical motion that we did with our pulleys to get you the motion linked up for your site. So you're going to use this for your automata box, and this is the from Activity 4.14. You have all of the Vex IQ parts. I created a IQ motion, and first thing I did is I downloaded all of those parts into my Fusion file. So I've got that. We're gonna now create and save. This is gonna be our pulley. I'm gonna call this our pulley mech for our pulley mechanism. And I'm gonna save it under my IQ stuff that we've got here. So I'm gonna hit save. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to bring some parts in for this. And all of this is in 4.1.4 Project Lead the Way for you. So first thing I'm going to do is drag a beam in for my assembly. So now one of the things you don't want to do is don't build inside your 1x8 beam, because then that changes that model itself. So you want to keep your core components separate. We're building a new one that we're putting everything in. So I like to set my parts up. So I'm going to rotate this. We're going to rotate this 90 degrees so we get it to where we want. So we're going to hit OK. So it's going to be right there in the middle of our part. Now, if I go up here and I right click on this and I'm going to hit ground, what that's going to do is it grounds this piece so it will not move. So everything is going to go into this piece. Especially when you start to make joints and move stuff around, it's a great idea to make sure that you ground something so that your stuff doesn't get all messed up. And so now we're going to bring in our 2-inch shaft. Where's my 2-inch? Here we go. We'll bring in this 2-inch shaft. So I'm going to bring it in. It's going to drop it right into the middle for us. I'm going to align this and kind of get this set up where we want. So I'm going to move it 90 degrees. And I'm going to slide this out. So it's always a good idea. Well, right here. Now this is going to sort of line up in this second hole here. So I'm just kind of trying to get it in the right spot. So I've got it here. I'm going to hit OK. Now what we can do here is I can either bring another one in, or I can go here to this move copy. I'm going to click on this here. Let's do this. I'm going to click on this end here. And I'm going to hit this move copy. I'm going to click, then I'm going to go right here. And I'm going to do create a copy. And now if I drag this, I've already got myself a copy, so it's already oriented in kind of the right direction. So I can hit OK, so then I've got the two in here. Or you could just drag another one in if you wanted to. So for this one, we also need to bring in two pulleys, 10 millimeter and the 40 millimeter pulley. So I'm going to pull this in, drop that in here. Now, obviously, you don't want to copy this because these are going to be we're doing two different ones. So I'm going to kind of rotate this, set this up on its end. And I know that this is going to go kind of on this one here. So I'm going to move this, I'll move this kind of down here. So it's, and you don't have to line your parts up. I'm just kind of putting them in the right area. So we're getting it here. And then I'm going to do my 40 millimeter pulley, which is, where's my 40 millimeter pulley? And I'm just going to drag that one in. And let's get our 40 millimeter pulley set up. I'm going to pull this in, and we're going to rotate this one up so it's going to come up 90 degrees. Make this -90. So we got it here. So then the other thing that we can do, if we look at this, see how this bar is nice and neat. If I rotate around, see how this is not. I can just rotate this right now if I want to. So I get it. So it's set up at the 45 degrees. So we've got it set up here. And so then I can pull this, kind of just get this sort of set out of the way. Hit OK. There we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start to put these parts in. And so what we need to do for this is we're going to create our joints. And so we've done our joints. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a joint. This first joint we can choose, we position our motion. So our first joint we're going to choose, it's going to be a revolute joint, because we're going to make the axle is what's going to spin. So it's going to be a revolute joint. So now we're going to choose our position for it. First thing I'm going to do is click the centerpiece of this, and it doesn't matter which end, you're just going to click one of the ends of it. And then what I'm going to do is, where is it going to go? And I want it to go right here into the center. So we've moved it there. Okay, now what we can do here is we're going to offset our axis here. And so I can either drag this so that I can get this in here so I know where I'm going. And I'm going to offset this 1 inch. Just kind of put it in there. So let's do 1.25. 1.25. There it is, 1.25. So we got it 1.25 inches. I'm going to hit OK. And there it is. So we've got that motion joint captured in there. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing for my other side. And what we're going to do is just going to put it right here in the second hole. So I'm going to create another joint again. Now it remembers the type of joint that we've got. So I can drag this down and out of the way, or I can keep it where we're at. So I'm going to keep it as a rigid revolute joint. Same thing, I'm going to click on here. So it's going to be at the center point. I'm going to click right in here at the center point. I'm going to change this. We're going to change this offset 1.25 so they line up, and we're going to hit OK. So now we've got both of our axles put in with our revolute joints. So now what we need to do is put our pulleys on there, or put our pulleys. So we've got our 10 millimeter pulleys going to be our first one. So now what we're going to do with this is, our axle is what's going to be our revolution. So this is what's going to revolve. This is going to be fixed. So think of this as being glued to the axle. So what we're going to do is we're going to assemble a joint. We're going to change this. I'm going to do it from right here. I'm going to change this to a rigid joint. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of come down here, and I want to make sure everything is set up. And this is going to be where it gets important. So I'm going to go back to my position. And let's go in here. So it's a rigid joint. So I'm going to come into here. So now what I get is, you see, if I come in here, I kind of get these sides and I get this inside piece, but I want to get that center part in this inside hole. So if I hold down, if I get close, hold down the control key, and then let's see here. Control. We want to get to that center part. There, so we got the center piece there, so we got selected that center part of it. Hold down the control and clicked on it, and now what I'm going to do is come over to my axle here, go to the end, and I'm going to click right down the end. And that's going to slide that right in there. And so then what we're going to do here is I can adjust this to where I want it to be. But what I want to do is I'm just going to have it go in 1 inch. And I'm going to change to the top view. I want to make sure that that top view, that looks pretty good. So we're going to go 1 inch in. We're going to hit OK. And there it is. So now when we go back to our home view, one of the things that we can look at here that we want to look at is that it's lined up nice and neat. And so if you look at this, the holes are all lined up nice and neat. Everything looks good. In our model, if we don't have the squares lined up with the squares, it'll still work. It just isn't professional. It doesn't look good. So we're going to do the same thing with this one. So we're going to create another joint. So I'm going to assemble this joint. I've already got it selected. It remembers our last one is a rigid joint. So I'm going to select my inside one here. So I'm going to come in here and get this inside. I'm going to hold down the control key so I can get to the middle. Select the middle point. Come over to here. Select the center point of my axle. It moves everything. So now what we can see here, if you look at this, and I come in here, if I look at this, see how that doesn't line up just right? I want that to line up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate that. So I'm going to rotate that so that it lines up perfectly for us. There it is. So now that's going to line up for us. What that just makes it so it looks good. And then I'm going to move this in. What did we say that was? I think we did 1 inch. Negative 1 inch. And we're going to hit OK. And let's look at our top view here and make sure that that's kind of, nope, I did 0.75 on this one. So I'm going to go back in. Let's edit that joint. And that is going to be negative 0.75. we do here? How did I get this? What did we do here? Let's do this. Let's look at our other one. Let's look at this joint here. So I'm going to look at this one. Let me edit this joint here. Oh, I'm going to hit cancel. Let's go back to this joint. Let's look at what we did here. Cancel. Let me go to this joint. Let's go to these joints here. Let's edit that joint. And that is -1 inch on my Z. Okay, so that's what we want to do for this other one. All right, so this one we're going to make -1 inch. It was -1 inch. So we're going to edit that joint, and that is going to be -1. And I'm going to slide this over just a little bit so that it lines up. There it is. So we got it lined up. There it is. So I've got them lined up for us there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set up, and we've got our two motion links here. What we want to do is we want to create that that motion link for it. And so I can open up my joints. I've got my two revolution joints. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a motion link. So under assemble, we're going to create a motion link. We have to select our first two joints. Now you can either go and select the flags, or I like to select the motion links right inside the menu, and I've got them here. So once I get my motion link set up, what I can do here is everything is rotating at the exact same thing. But what we can do here is say, so this is motion link 1, so this is the one I did first. So Revolute 1 is the first one I picked. Revolute 2 was the second one I picked, so I kept them in order. And so if I wanted to, I could hit this reverse if I wanted one to go one direction, one to go the other direction. But what we want to do is, this doesn't accurately represent what our motion looks like. This is a 40 millimeter pulley. This is a 10 millimeter pulley. So this should be spinning. This should be spinning at, this is larger, so this should be spinning at 1/4 the speed of this one. This one should be going much faster. So what I can do is keep this one at its speed. So this would be at 360. So this is rotating 360 degrees. We want to slow this one down. So the way we do that is I can say this one is going to rotate at, we're going to do 1/4. So 1/4 of 360 would be 90. So we're going to do that, and we're going to hit OK. So now when I go in here and I go to animate this joint, I'm going to animate this joint relationship, you can see this one is spinning much faster than this one. And the reason for that is that this one is spinning, this is a smaller one, so this is spinning at 1/4, or this is spinning at a 1/4 of the speed. So this would be, if we had a belt on here, this would be spinning the way that it should be spinning for our revolution. And everything is rotating as it should be. So this is what our motion link would look like. And you're going to do this with all of your other ones. So this is going to be our motion link to show how we've got everything animated with our motion. And so when we're done with this, we're going to save this. We are done with our mechanical pulley. So we're done with our pulley mech. Version description, complete motion. There it is, complete motion, milestone, and we're going to put in here finished. And we're going to sit and hit OK. And there it is. We finished our pulley motion, and that is everything you need for your motion.